The talking drums stopped mid-beat the moment the bride pushed open the side door with her shoulder and stepped into the groom's dressing room. Her white lace gown, clean and bright as morning, grazed the tiled floor. Her bouquet, wrapped with a red and gold Ankara ribbon, slipped from her hand and fell without sound. In the mirror, the reflection told the truth before any mouth could form words. Darius, the groom, stood too close to Tasha, the chief bridesmaid, Amara's best friend since childhood. His hands on her bare shoulders, her hands tangled behind his neck. The kind of closeness that required quiet. The kind of closeness that could not breathe beside a wedding. Amara did not scream. She did not cry. She simply filled the doorway, steady as a doorway, strong as a doorway, broad-shouldered and calm-eyed. The kind of bride who lifted weights before sunrise and balanced trays of jollof at church fundraisers without spilling a grain. Her muscles, soft under satin, flexed when she set the bouquet upright again like a flag reclaimed. Darius tore free first. Amara, listen, this is not what. Tasha stumbled back, straightening her silver gelly, cheeks burning against her cocoa-brown skin. We were praying, she said, voice thin. Just praying. He felt faint. In your arms. Amara stepped inside and the dress did not snag, it obeyed her. Then say amen. Silence settled, thick as harmattan dust. Out in the sanctuary, voices and laughter flowed, drums warming and ululations rising, the scent of suya and new perfume drifting in with the air conditioning. Pastor Williams would be moving toward the altar now, flipping through the vows, humming the old hymn, When Love is True, Truth Stands. The choir's matching Kent stoles flashed past the open door like a river of color. Only the room remained motionless, fixed on three people and an unfinished moment. Darius forced a smile. His tuxedo fit like a promise, the crisp cream jacket hugging his frame, the black bow tie sharp as a blade. Amara, you know me. I'm nervous. Tasha was just helping me breathe. That's all. You know Tasha. She's like your sister. Amara tilted her head, eyes settling on the details. Tasha's lipstick smudged at the corner, Darius's pocket square crushed. The pearl hairpin Amara had lent Tasha, a heirloom from Mama Neka, now bent slightly as if pressed by someone's palm. She took a breath that had weight. Our people say, she said quietly, when a goat eats your cassava, it brings a friend to help finish the farm. She looked at Tasha. You were supposed to hold my veil today. Amara, Baiko, please, Tasha whispered, slipping into the gentle Igbo she used when they shared roasted corn at the bus stop in Benin City years ago, before they both flew to Atlanta. It's stress. That's all. You know these American weddings, too many moving parts. He was shaking. I held him so he wouldn't faint. Then why close the door? Amara asked. No one answered. A floorboard popped, sharp as a slap. She bent to lift her bouquet again. The red and gold ribbon brushed her wrist, right above the thin scar she carried from the community gym she ran on the south side, where she taught girls how to deadlift their fear and squat their shame into the ground. Her grandmother used to say, strength isn't how loud you shout, it's how steady your hands are when the pot boils over. Amara steadied the pot. Open your hands, she said to Darius. He blinked. What? Open them. He showed two empty palms, the same palms that had held hers under the mango tree outside the church 2 nights ago when they practiced their vows, promising to be anchor and shelter. And you, she said turning to Tasha, turn around. Let me see your back. They had shared 20 years of secrets and salon gossip, borrowed earrings and exam stress. In senior year they braided each other's hair in a tiny dorm room that smelled of shea butter and coffee. Amara had chosen Tasha to stand beside her today because some positions belonged to history, not hierarchy. Tasha turned. The back of her dress, modest, sequined, careful, was crumpled along the zipper. Finger-width creases curved from her shoulder blades to the small of her back, the kind a brief, desperate embrace could leave. Amara did not speak. She smoothed the fabric, the way mothers smooth the edges of a child's school uniform on the first day back. Gentle. Functional. Exacting. Let's not pretend, Amara said, voice low. I came early because I had a feeling in my bones, the kind that wakes you before your alarm and sends you where you're not expected. I stepped out of the car alone and slipped through the side door and God guided my feet here. Understand this, I am not here to argue. I am here to see, to know, and to decide. She felt the sting behind her eyes but did not let it bloom into tears. Not here. Not now. Darius tried a different tone, the one that charmed investors and old aunties alike. He softened his face, let his shoulders slope as if the weight of love had bent him. Babe, the photographer asked Tasha to fix my collar. It got complicated. I panicked. I don't even know what I'm doing. You are the one I want. Then why, Amara said, do I smell Tasha's perfume on your lapel? The door cracked wider. Uncle Bayo poked his head in, grinning, a man perpetually at the center of a party. The grin vanished when he saw the triangle of silence. Sorry, he murmured, retreating. The door closed with a respectful hush. Amara's mind reached backward, unspooling the thread of how they had arrived here. Darius, Lagos-born, Atlanta-raised, was the smoothest talker on Auburn Avenue, the kind of man who could sell umbrellas on a sunny day and make you thank him for the shade. He met Amara at a church volunteer night, carrying a stack of folding chairs like a hero in a Nollywood flick. He courted her with pepper soup on rainy evenings and long walks by the Beltline. He praised her strength, laughed when she lifted a bag of rice with one hand, and told his barber, "She's the kind of woman who can carry a house." Tasha had cheered them on at first. She learned the color scheme, argued for hibiscus in the centerpieces, practiced the aisle walk in sneakers. But there were whispers of small things. A shared joke that dried when Amara approached, an unread message on Darius's phone that glowed in Tasha's name during game night, a hug that lasted a heartbeat too long when Darius sprained his ankle and Tasha helped him up the stairs. Nothing big enough to confront. Nothing small enough to ignore. Now small things had gathered into a mountain. Amara set her bouquet down very carefully this time. "We will not turn this into gossip. We will not spill what we cannot carry. But you both will respect the work I have put into this day, me, my family, our community. If love is here, it will stand in light. If lies are here, they will crumple." Tasha swallowed. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "For what?" Amara asked. "For this." "What is this?" Tasha's mouth trembled. "I didn't mean," she looked at Darius, then away. "It started as comfort. He said you were too strong sometimes, that you didn't need him. He said he felt small." Darius flinched. "Tasha." Amara's eyebrows rose. "Too strong? Is love a chair that breaks under weight or a bench that holds? You said you admired my strength, Darius." "I do," he said quickly. "I do. I was just venting." She misunderstood. Amara focused, slicing through the fog. "What did you promise her, Darius?" "Nothing," he said. "The truth," she said. He glanced at Tasha again. Something in his eyes pleaded for a script, a shared line. Tasha shook her head, tears finally welling. Amara moved to the dresser. A neat stack of programs lay there, names printed in gold, Amara Okoye and Darius Cole. She flipped one open. The chief bridesmaid's name, the same as always, Tasha Mbe. No trick there. Then, another detail, a small brown envelope leaned against the mirror with the county seal, stamped and clean. Darius's handwriting on the front, "For Pastor." Important. She slid a finger under the flap and paused. "Did you file something I don't know about?" Darius stepped forward. "Don't." Amara opened it. Inside lay a single sheet, heavy paper, official font. Her eyes moved steadily. Her breath returned to her in pieces. Application to marry, Darius Cole, and her gaze locked on the second name. Natasha Mbe. She raised her eyes. "Explain." "It's old," Darius said too fast. "We, Tasha and I, once, before I met you, we considered it was a test print. We never submitted it. The clerk probably mailed it by mistake." Amara looked at the date. 2 weeks ago. The room tilted, then leveled as her feet pushed into the floor, the way she set her stance under a heavy barbell. She handed the paper to Tasha without a word. Tasha pressed her lips together, breath shuddering. "He said it was for a business visa," she whispered. "That if we looked like family the bank would—" "I'm sorry. I know how it sounds." "I know. And you signed?" Amara asked. A nod, small as a seed. Amara nodded once, too, the kind of nod people mistake for agreement when it is only the body learning the shape of a new storm. The drumline outside struck a bright flourish, as if the whole church had decided now was the perfect time to be joyful. A child laughed, clear as a bell. Aunties fussed over gelly angles in the hallway. Nothing in the world had changed and everything had. Amara squared her shoulders. "Both of you will come with me," she said. "We will walk to the altar. We will not whisper. We will not hide. Pastor Williams will open this envelope and read it. My family will hear. If truth has legs, it will stand up in front of witnesses." Darius reached out. "Please don't humiliate me. You have done that work yourself," Amara replied. She turned toward the door, gathering the long train of her gown in one hand with the quiet grace of a woman carrying a full basin on her head through a crowded market. In the mirror behind her, Tasha's face crumpled. Darius's jaw set in a new harder line. The door opened under her palm. On the threshold, Mama Neka appeared, small, regal, her Gelia crown. She took one look at her daughter's face, then at the paper in Amara's hand, then at the two behind her. She did not ask questions. She only laid a steady palm on Amara's forearm and said, "My child, when wind blows, the fowl's yanch shows. Let the wind blow. We will not cover what stinks." They stepped into the corridor. Heads turned. Conversation thinned, braided itself into curiosity. Pastor Williams, halfway to the altar, stopped when he saw the trio advancing. Ushers whispered to each other, then fell in behind like a quiet procession. The talking drum, unsure, rolled a soft rattle that sounded like rain deciding whether to fall. At the front pew, a courier in a neat blue jacket hurried in from the foyer, breathless, scanning the room. He clutched a larger envelope and a clipboard. "Delivery for Mr. Darius Cole," he called. "Urgent documents from the county clerk." The church froze. Pastor Williams beckoned the courier forward and broke the seal with careful fingers. He pulled out the contents, scanned the first page, and blinked hard as if the print had shifted under his eyes. Then he looked up at Amara, at Darius, at Tasha, and said, voice carrying to every corner of the room, "What I am holding, this changes everything." The choir inhaled as one. Enties leaned in. Somewhere in the back, a baby stopped fussing. Amara's heart did not race, it planted itself, ready. Pastor Williams lifted the page so only the bridal party could see. Tasha's hand flew to her mouth. Darius took one step backward. Mama Neka drew closer to her daughter, unafraid. And before a single word of explanation left the pastor's lips, the church's power flickered, the microphones cracked, and someone at the door shouted, "Open up! We need to speak to the groom, now." The double doors of New Dawn Fellowship swung inward, letting in a gust of hot Atlanta air that smelled of asphalt and fried fish from the food truck parked outside. Two uniformed sheriff's deputies strode down the aisle, their steps echoing across the marble tiles. Behind them came a woman in a navy suit with a leather folder tucked under her arm and the cool focus of someone used to rooms full of surprise. Pastor Williams lowered the paper in his hand. "Officers." The taller deputy tipped his hat politely. "We're looking for Mr. Darius Cole." A wave moved through the church, heads turning, whispers fluttering like the hems of Agbadas. Amara felt Mama Neka's hand tighten, then relax. Beside her, Tasha's eyes shone with the sheen of someone trying not to cry. Darius swallowed and lifted his chin, a man determined to act as if control still lived in his pocket. "I'm Darius," he said, voice steady. "What's this about?" The woman in the navy suit stepped forward. "Counselor Ava Knight, Fulton County. I need to verify your identity." She glanced at the courier's envelope still clutched in Pastor's hand. "And I believe you have the other half of what brought us here." Pastor nodded and passed her the pages. She scanned them, lips pressed tight, then turned the top sheet outward. On it, in clean government font, a header said, "Notice of hearing, petition to void fraudulent application of marriage license. Parties named, Darius Cole and Natasha Mbe." Below, in bold, "Immediate review recommended." Anti-Funk's whisper launched like a bird, "Yezu." The deputy cleared his throat. "Sir, we received a complaint last week alleging an attempt to circumvent banking regulations using a sham marriage application. Today a judge signed an order to secure testimony and documents. We're here to serve notice and request you come with us for brief questioning." He glanced around at the pews. "We can do this quietly if everyone will allow it." Amara's gaze slid to Tasha. Tasha was shaking her head, little bird-like motions, eyes saying "I'm sorry" with every blink. Darius shot her a warning look, then smoothed it into a smile for the room. "This is a misunderstanding," he announced for the aunties, the ushers, the cousins fiddling with their camera phones. "I love my fiancé. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'll step out for 5 minutes to sign whatever they need and come right back to marry the love of my life." He took a step toward the aisle. "Wait," Amara said, not loud, but the word carried. She turned to the pastor. "May I speak from the altar?" Pastor Williams had known her since she moved from Benin City to Atlanta at 18, a teenager with a duffel bag, a scholarship, and a laugh that filled the church kitchen when the jollof pot whistled. He gave a small nod. Amara walked forward, train gathered in her hands so it didn't bite her heels. The microphone popped back to life as if the sound system, too, was deciding to be brave. She faced the congregation, African aunties with geli rising like bright hills, uncles in Igbada patterned like rivers, cousins wearing Kent bow ties, her gym girls in floral dresses with braids swinging. She saw Mr. and Mrs. Cole, Darius's parents, in the second pew, their faces taut as stretched cloth, pride and worry stitched close. "I will not entertain gossip," Amara said evenly. "But I owe my family the truth. A few minutes ago I walked into the groom's room and found Darius and my chief bridesmaid, my friend, embracing. There is also an application for a marriage license between them, dated 2 weeks ago. We will not hide these matters in corridors. We will handle them in light." A rustle. A soft "oh" from someone whose chest held too many secrets of their own. She lifted her chin. "I came from a house where we ironed our difficulties like Ankara, slowly with steam until the fabric lay flat. Strength is not shouting. Strength is the steadiness you use to hold the iron." Her eyes met Darius's. "I am steady." Darius tried to meet the energy with a performance of contrition. "Baby, please. You know me. Mistakes were made but nothing." "You told her I was too strong," Amara said. "I am. I won't shrink." A memory flashed. Years ago, before there was a Darius or a white dress, there was a tiny apartment with a stubborn hot plate and a roommate who played sad songs too loud. Amara was 19, working nights folding clothes at a thrift store, taking morning classes, and teaching girls in the neighborhood park how to do proper push-ups. That's where she met Tasha again, fresh from Dakar by way of New York, sharp-witted, a smile like a dare. They braided each other's hair and shared stew and stories about aunties who turned gossip into prophecy and uncles who offered unsolicited advice like it was communion. They promised to be each other's home. When Darius came, he came with the ease of a man who knew which jokes disarmed a room and which silences made a woman lean in. He brought Amara lemon cake when she landed the community grant to open her gym. He learned to say, "ODMMA to Mama Neka." He fixed the gym's broken fan with YouTube and Nerve. He told Tasha, "Thank you for looking out for my woman." The three of them were a picture under the Beltline lights. One man, two women, one future. Under the lights, details shift. Sometimes friends stand too close. Sometimes a glance lingers. Sometimes a secret grows in the space between a text and its reply. "Ms. Okoye," Counselor Knight said gently now from the aisle, as though to remind the room that a timeline existed beyond the altar. "We respect your day. We only need a signature and Mr. Cole's statement for the judge's file. We can step into the office by the church lobby." Pastor Williams gestured to the small glass-walled office where church business and prayer requests lived side by side. "Use mine," he said. "But before you begin," he raised the courier's remaining page. "There is a second document here." He peered down. "A certified copy of a text exchange." Counselor Knight nodded. "Yes. The complainant submitted it. Corroborates the application." Darius's voice sharpened. "What complainant?" A hush fell, the kind that announces a drumbeat about to land. From the back pew a woman stood up. She wore a simple black dress without lace or drama, her hair wrapped in a headscarf the color of night road. Her skin was the deep blue-black of rain-soaked soil. She walked like someone for whom walking into rooms like this had never been easy and never been optional. On her left wrist, a hospital band clung like a pale ribbon. A little boy followed, 8 or 9, in a too-big blazer with sleeves swallowing his knuckles. Amara's heart tripped. She recognized the woman, barely. She had come to the gym once, months ago, asking about the free after-school program. Tired. Grateful. She had said her name was Zola. Zola moved to the center aisle. The deputy stepped aside. She faced Darius squarely, no malice, no theater. "I filed the complaint," she said, her voice steady in a way that made people listen. "Because he promised me a favor that became this." The church exhaled together, a sound like a wind gust rattling palm fronds. Darius's face drained. "Zola, don't do this." Zola looked at the pastor, then at Amara. "I am not here to destroy a wedding. I am here to keep a child's life from becoming collateral." She nodded toward the boy. "This is Malachi. His father, my brother, died last year. Darius told me if I signed some papers to help him with bank requirements, he'd pay for Malachi's surgery and sponsor his school. I asked questions. He said it was harmless. Then he put Miss Mbe's name on the license." She lifted her chin. "When I realized what it was, I refused. He said he'd handle it another way. I waited. Nothing came. So I reported it." All eyes swung back to Darius. He lifted his palms, a man fronting innocence that no longer fit. "I was trying to help everyone," he said to the room more than to Zola. "Business is complicated. Immigration is complicated. Life is complicated." He forced a small laugh that died on the tiles. "Let's not turn complexity into crime. Integrity is simple, Mama Neka said from the front, not raising her voice. Counselor Knight consulted her folder. Mr. Cole, we also have a bank officer's affidavit stating you attempted to open a joint line of credit with Ms. Mbaye last Tuesday, using the pending license as proof of relationship. When the officer asked for clarification, you said your wedding to Ms. Okoye was symbolic, and for the aunties. She looked up, eyes clear as glass. Those are your words. Aunties clutched pearls that were suddenly heavy as stones. Darius's control frayed. Those are not, that was banter. You people don't understand our humor. Tasha made a small breaking sound. Darius, stop. The deputies shifted, the professional choreography of men who had seen chaos arrive and chosen balance. Sir, the taller one said not unkindly. Let's step into the office. Darius squared himself but didn't move. His eyes darted. Amara, Zola, Tasha, Pastor, the back door, the front door, the choir loft, the high windows burning afternoon light. He was measuring exits like a man assessing profit and loss. Walk, Amara said. He went. The glass-walled office received them like an aquarium. Everyone could see, few could hear. Counselor Knight slid papers across the desk. The deputies took positions that were crisp but respectful. Through the glass, the congregation watched the choreography of signatures, the small theater of law. Amara stood at the altar, the weight of 1,000 eyes warming her skin. Zola hovered near, unsure, as if she had stepped on stage and didn't know where to stand. Amara turned to her. You did right, she said. And you're not alone. Zola's eyes flooded with relief she had trained herself not to feel. Malachi peeked up at Amara and tried a smile. He was a mirror of 100 boys in Amara's gym, brave, skinny, resilient, hungry for someone to kneel to eye level and take him seriously. Pastor, Amara said, if this wedding pauses, the reception food shouldn't waste. Let's feed everyone. And someone call Sister Ngozi, have her bring the church van. I want to know what Malachi's doctors need. A murmur of approval rose, a ripple like wind through tall grass. Aunties nodded, purpose replacing gossip. Uncles stood, ready to lift tables. The choir hummed something that sounded like faith finding a melody. In the office, Darius signed a final page. Counselor Knight slid it away, then asked one last question. Darius said something sharp. She answered with the quiet of a person holding the law like a lantern. Then, just when the room's temperature began to cool and people's shoulders lowered, the courier who had delivered the first envelope jogged back down the aisle, breathless, clutching his clipboard like a life raft. I am so sorry, there's one more document. I was told to rush to the groom if he was still on the premises. He adjusted his cap, cheeks shiny with sweat. From a private investigator's office. Pastor took the manila envelope, scanned the label and frowned. It's addressed to both Mr. Cole and Ms. Okoye. A tremor went through Amara's arms, she held them still. Open it. He did. He unfolded a glossy 8x10 photograph and went still as a stopped drum. After a heartbeat too long, he turned the photo outward. It was a candid shot, taken at dusk outside a restaurant in Midtown. Darius stood with a woman who was not Tasha, tall, light-skinned, a small gold cross at her throat. She was holding a little girl with Darius's eyes. The caption strip along the bottom read, April 3rd, 7:42 p.m. Client requested confirmation of subject's weekly visits. Amara's breath did not leave her, it withdrew and waited. Pastor flipped the photo over. A single line of handwriting leaned across the back in neat script. She's almost 4. He brings her mango juice on Thursdays. The church inhaled like a single animal. Behind the glass, Darius saw the photo in Pastor's hand. His shoulders sagged as if someone had lifted the lid off the pot and all the steam escaped at once. He pressed his fingers to his forehead, then looked up at Amara through the clear pane, mouth shaping a word that might have been please or mercy or both. Before anyone spoke, before anyone chose to condemn or console, the little girl in the picture, fast, familiar, real, darted through the same double doors with a young woman chasing her and called out, voice ringing high and sure as a bell. Daddy. The sound of that single word, Daddy, cracked through the silence like thunder splitting a dry sky. Every face in the church turned toward the door. A little girl, no more than 4, honey-brown skin glowing against her pink lace dress, ran down the aisle barefoot, her black curls bouncing with every step. Her tiny hands clutched a faded plush rabbit, its ear missing and one eye sewn back with red thread. Behind her, a young woman rushed in, panting, clearly unprepared for the stares that swallowed her whole. Darius froze where he stood in the glass office, caught between shame and panic. His lips moved but no sound came. The little girl ran straight into his legs, wrapping her arms tight around him. "Daddy, you forgot my juice," she said, voice full of innocence, her words ringing through every microphone that had once been muted. Every spectator gasped. Amara's throat went dry. Her heartbeat slowed until it matched the dull, heavy rhythm of the talking drum outside. Even Tasha, the betrayer-turned-witness, pressed both hands against her mouth. Darius crouched slowly and placed a trembling hand on the girl's shoulder. "Kemi," he whispered. "Why are you here?" "I told you I wanted to see the big dress," the girl said proudly. "You said you're going to marry the princess. I wanted to see the princess too." Amara's eyes closed briefly, her lashes trembling. When she opened them again, her calm was the kind of calm that scared people, the calm before the storm begins to choose its direction. Pastor Williams finally found his voice. "Child, where's your mother?" The young woman who had followed the girl took a nervous step forward. "I'm her mother, sir." She clasped her hands together and bowed her head slightly. "My name is Grace." "I didn't mean to interrupt. I tried to stop her, but she didn't finish." The congregation filled the gap with whispers sharp as blades. Amara turned to Grace. "You know him?" Grace nodded, her voice small. "Yes, ma'am. We met before he moved back to the States. I didn't even know he was getting married today until a friend called me." Her eyes flicked toward Darius. "He's been visiting Kemi every week for 2 years." The floor of the church seemed to tilt. Mama Neka gripped the edge of the pew, her knuckles white. "Lord have mercy," she murmured. Counselor Knight exchanged a quick, stunned glance with the deputies. This was no longer just a wedding gone wrong. This was a revelation with roots that stretched years deep. "Mr. Cole," she said carefully, "for the sake of clarity, are you acknowledging this child as your daughter?" Darius's voice was a whisper. "Yes, she's mine." A collective gasp rolled through the church like a tide pulling chairs and pride with it. Tasha stumbled backward, her heel catching on the hem of her dress. She fell against the front pew and covered her face. "Oh God," she whispered. "You told me you couldn't have kids, that you were waiting until marriage." The irony was cruel and perfect in equal measure. Amara stood motionless, her bouquet still clutched tightly. For the first time since she'd walked in on him, her body shook, not from weakness, but from the effort it took to keep her fury contained. "Darius," she said softly, "how many versions of you exist in this world? Because the one I met said his parents were his only family left. The one I courted said loyalty was his crown. The one I was supposed to marry swore he'd never hide anything from me." He took a step toward her, but the deputies moved instinctively, forming a quiet wall. "Amara, please, listen," he pleaded. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you. It was a mistake years ago. Grace and we weren't even together when Kemi came. I wanted to fix things before you found out." "Before I found out?" Amara cut in, her voice slicing clean through his excuses. "Or before your image cracked?" The congregation hummed with murmurs again. Some nodded in pity, others in anger, others simply watched, afraid to breathe. Grace shifted uneasily. "He's been supporting her," she said quietly. "He pays for her daycare and visits on Thursdays. I didn't want to cause trouble, but she kept asking why she couldn't meet his family. And so she ran here," Amara said half to herself. "Children run toward truth faster than adults." Kemi tugged at her father's sleeve, her round eyes wide. "Daddy, why are they all looking at you like that? Did you do something bad?" The entire room fell silent again. Darius knelt down, unable to meet his daughter's gaze. "No, sweetheart," he whispered. "Daddy just made some mistakes." "Then say sorry," she said simply. It was such pure logic that even Pastor Williams blinked away sudden tears. Darius looked up at Amara. "I am sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I failed you. I failed everyone. But please, don't end my life in one day." Amara stepped forward slowly, the heavy fabric of her wedding gown brushing the marble with each step. When she stood just a breath away, she looked down at the little girl. "What's your name again, my dear?" "Kemi," the girl said softly. Amara bent down until she was eye level with her. "Kemi, you are beautiful," she said, her voice tender but strong. "Don't ever think your existence is a mistake. You hear me?" Kemi nodded shyly. Then Amara looked up at Darius again. "You may have built this day on lies, but the truth is standing right in front of you. You hid your child, you played with trust, and you used loyalty like decoration. Tell me, what else haven't you said?" Darius hesitated. The counselor raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Cole?" His silence lasted too long. The air thickened. Finally he sighed. "There's one more thing." The entire room held its breath. He glanced at Grace, shame rolling over his face like shadow. Grace isn't just Kemi's mother. She's also, he swallowed, Tasha's half-sister. The church erupted. What? Yezu. Chinik me. Voices bounced off the walls, echoes of disbelief and disgust. Tasha's scream tore through the noise. You're lying, she cried. That can't be true. Grace's trembling hand reached into her purse and pulled out a faded photograph. Two young girls beside an old woman in Senegal. Our father's children, she said quietly. We lost touch after he remarried. I found out about you only last year through a cousin in Houston. Tasha collapsed into a chair, shaking uncontrollably. Oh my God, she whispered, staring blankly ahead. Amara could only stand still, the pieces of betrayal layering themselves one after another until the weight became almost sacred. Pastor Williams exhaled heavily. This is not a wedding anymore, he said. This is a revelation. Darius reached out one last time, voice breaking. Amara, I'll fix this. I'll make it right. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. You can't fix what you buried alive. Auntie Funk rose from the front pew, eyes burning. My daughter, she called to Amara, this is not your shame to carry. Let him walk with his own shadow. Amara nodded, tears threatening but never falling. Mama Funk, you're right. My tears are not his offering. She turned to the congregation, her voice rising like a drumbeat, calling strength back into her chest. I came here today to marry honesty. If honesty isn't at this altar, I will not stand beside deceit. And with that, she pulled off her veil and laid it on the pulpit like a white flag that had chosen not to surrender but to signal war's end. She faced Darius one final time. You have shown me your true ceremony. But don't worry, I'll hold mine someday and it will be built on truth. With her head high, Amara took her mother's arm and walked down the aisle. The crowd parted silently, watching her pass, strong, unbroken, radiant in her heartbreak. As she reached the exit, the talking drum resumed, slow and steady as if to honor her dignity. But before she could step outside, Counselor Knight's phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowned, then looked up sharply. Mr. Cole, she said, raising her voice, we just received confirmation from the county office. There's a federal fraud alert linked to one of your business accounts. You need to come with us immediately. The deputies moved forward. Darius tried to protest, but their hands were firm. The last thing the congregation saw as he was led away was his face, pale and hollow, staring at the woman who refused to bow. And just as the doors closed behind him, little Kemi's voice echoed softly in the church one last time. Daddy, will the princess still come to my birthday? The drum stopped again. The congregation waited. And in that stillness, Amara's eyes filled for the first time. Not because she lost love, but because innocence had witnessed corruption and still had the courage to ask about birthdays. Audience engagement prompt. What would you have done if you were in Amara's shoes? Would you have stayed to hear him out, or walked away like she did? Share your thoughts in the comments below and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you won't miss what happens next in this unforgettable story. Outside the church, the sky had turned the color of bruised steel. Clouds gathered like witnesses, their bellies heavy with rain. Amara stood beneath the awning, bouquet still in her hands, though now the petals were torn, crushed by her grip and by what the day had revealed. The sound of Darius being led to the patrol car echoed faintly from the parking lot. Somewhere, an auntie muttered a prayer. Another one crossed herself and whispered, He that diggeth a pit shall fall therein. Mama Neka wrapped a shawl around Amara's shoulders. My daughter, wipe your face. The sky is crying enough tears for all of us. Amara gave a small, shaky laugh. Mama, how do you stop loving a man who lied with such confidence? Mama Neka sighed deeply. You don't stop overnight. You pray until your heart becomes smarter than your memory. They stood in silence for a while as people trickled out of the church in groups. Some whispering, some pretending not to. The choir members still in their robes looked lost, unsure whether to sing or to hide. Then from behind them came the soft sound of tiny footsteps. Kemi, the little girl, was clutching her mother's hand. Her small face looked up at Amara with innocent worry. Are you okay, princess? She asked. The question struck Amara right in the chest. She knelt down, smoothing the child's curls. I will be, my dear, she said softly. Are you okay? Kemi nodded. Mommy says Daddy made a mistake. But mistakes can be fixed, right? Amara smiled sadly. Some mistakes can. Some teach us what never to repeat. Grace stepped closer, her voice gentle. Miss Amara, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I swear I didn't even know he was engaged until I saw the flyers online. Amara stood, studying her face. Grace's eyes were sincere, tired but honest. You don't owe me an apology, Amara said. He made his choices. You protected your child. You did what I wish I had done earlier, listen to the signs. Grace nodded, relief softening her shoulders. Thank you. A black sedan pulled up at the curb, its headlights cutting through the dim light. It was the same deputy from earlier, now returning without Darius. He stepped out, hat in hand. Ma'am, he said to Amara, we're taking Mr. Cole downtown for questioning. He'll likely be released on bond, but with these new documents, it could take some time. Amara's expression didn't change. Then let justice walk at its own pace. The deputy hesitated. Do you want to press any charges related to fraud or emotional damages? The question hung in the humid air. The onlookers waited, as if Amara's answer might decide how the rest of the day would end. No, she said finally. Not today. Some punishments don't need police, they need conscience. The deputy nodded respectfully and left. Mama Neka looked at her daughter. Come home, Amara. Leave this ground where love died. But Amara shook her head slowly. Not yet, Mama. There's one more person I need to talk to. She turned back toward the church. Inside, she found Tasha sitting on the front pew, staring blankly at the pulpit. Her mascara had bled into faint rivers down her cheeks, her gelly askew. Amara walked down the aisle, her footsteps echoing softly. Tasha, she said. Tasha flinched but didn't look up. You hate me, she said in a broken whisper. No, Amara replied quietly. I don't hate you. If I did, it would mean I still carry part of this wound for both of us. I just pity what you've become. Tasha's shoulders shook. He told me you were too strong. That he needed someone who would depend on him. And I believed him because I was stupid enough to mistake his weakness for love. Amara's voice remained calm. He saw strength as competition. You saw lies as affection. And both of you called it love. Tasha looked up at her, eyes red. I swear I didn't mean to destroy you. You didn't destroy me, Amara said. You just revealed me. Sometimes betrayal is the mirror God holds up so we can see who we've really become. Tasha broke into sobs, clutching her chest. How do you move on from this? Amara's gaze drifted toward the altar, now bare of decorations, the white flowers wilting under the weight of the day. By not letting it define the rest of your story, she said. You heal by walking out of the same doors that broke you, and not looking back. She turned to leave but stopped. Tasha, take care of yourself. And if you ever decide to love again, do it cleanly. No borrowed hearts. Tasha nodded weakly. As Amara stepped outside, the first drops of rain began to fall. The sky broke open, releasing its burden. Thunder rumbled softly in the distance, like an old drum beating for cleansing. She lifted her face to the rain, letting it wash over her makeup and the remains of her veil. Around her, the aunties rushed for cover, but she stood still, eyes closed, lips parted in quiet relief. Then a voice called from behind her. Miss Amara? It was Grace again, holding little Kemi close under her umbrella. We're leaving now, she said softly. I just wanted to thank you for your kindness. Amara nodded. Take care of her. She deserves better than the lies she was born into. Grace hesitated. You know, I saw the way you spoke to her back there. The way you looked at her. You'd make a wonderful mother someday. Amara smiled faintly. Maybe when God decides the right story. Grace squeezed her hand and left. As Amara watched them go, Pastor Williams came to stand beside her. My daughter, this day will be remembered, he said gently. But not for its shame, for your strength. Amara exhaled. Strength is a strange thing, Pastor. It feels heavy before it feels holy. He chuckled softly. That's how gold feels before it's purified. The rain thickened, drumming on the church roof like applause from heaven itself. Amara lifted her gown slightly, stepped into the muddy parking lot, and walked toward her car. Each step left a clean print in the dirt, a mark of someone who refused to disappear quietly. As she reached the car, Mama Neka called out, Come home, my daughter. There's soup waiting. Amara smiled. I'll come soon, Mama. I just need to sit with my piece first. She climbed into her car and sat in silence, hands on the steering wheel. The windshield blurred with rain, turning the world into watercolor streaks. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to cry, soft, controlled tears that carried exhaustion more than grief. Through the glass, she saw the church glowing faintly in the storm, a place that had seen both betrayal and deliverance in the same breath. And then, as if summoned by fate, her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. A calm male voice spoke. Miss Amara Okoye? My name is Dr. Edwin Thomas. I'm calling from Hope Foundation. Your community gym's grant proposal for young girls' empowerment was just approved. We'd like to discuss the next phase, funding, expansion, even nationwide support. Amara froze, tears mixing with rain. I don't even know what to say. Say congratulations, the voice said kindly. Your work inspired a lot of people. Her heart swelled with gratitude. Thank you, doctor. You have no idea what this means right now. Then let's make it mean everything, he said warmly. Can we meet tomorrow morning to finalize details? Yes, she said, voice steady again. Tomorrow morning. When the call ended, Amara looked at the sky and whispered, God, even when the storm comes, you still send a rainbow. The rain eased into a drizzle. She wiped her face, started the engine, and drove off into the soft hum of the city. Inside the church, the last candle flickered out, leaving the altar bare but peaceful, like a wound finally learning to heal. The next day, however, would bring another twist, one that would test everything Amara thought she had learned about trust, forgiveness, and destiny. Because sometimes when you survive betrayal, life doesn't just reward you, it prepares you for the next storm. The next morning, sunlight poured through Amara's bedroom window like it was trying to apologize for yesterday's storm. The city of Atlanta stirred to life outside, honking cars, street vendors setting up, gospel music faintly echoing from a nearby apartment. Amara sat at the edge of her bed, dressed simply in black jeans and a white blouse. Her wedding gown hung silently on the door, still damp at the hem, a ghost of what could have been. She looked at it for a long moment, then whispered, Thank you for showing me the truth before it became my prison. A knock came at her door. Mama Neka peeked in, her wrapper tied high, a wooden spoon in hand. You haven't eaten anything since yesterday, she scolded gently. I made yam porridge. Eat small before you go. Amara smiled faintly. Mama, I have a meeting. They called from Hope Foundation. They approved my proposal. Her mother's face lit up instantly. And, Chini, you see? When men disappoint, God promotes. She clapped her hands. Eat so you'll have strength to meet your destiny. Amara laughed, hugged her mother tightly, and took a few bites before leaving the house. The city smelled fresh after the rain, pavement wet, air crisp like renewal itself. She arrived at Hope Foundation's glass office downtown. A young receptionist greeted her and directed her to the conference room. Inside, a tall man with soft brown skin and sharp eyes stood waiting. He was dressed in a navy blue suit, sleeves rolled up slightly, the kind of confidence that came without arrogance. Miss Amara Okoye, he said with a smile, extending his hand. Dr. Edwin Thomas. It's good to finally meet the woman behind the movement everyone's been talking about. Amara shook his hand, her grip firm. Thank you for believing in my work, doctor. Please call me Edwin, he said, motioning for her to sit. I've read every line of your proposal. Strength and Sisterhood Gym Initiative. Brilliant idea, using fitness to rebuild confidence in young women. You're creating more than athletes, you're creating warriors. Amara smiled modestly. That's the goal. To remind them that strength isn't loud, it's steady. Edwin nodded approvingly. We want to fund your gym expansion, but not just that. We want to make you our youth ambassador. You'll represent Hope Foundation in schools and community events. There's even talk of a short documentary about your story. Amara blinked, stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Edwin said warmly. The world needs to hear from women like you, women who turn pain into purpose. Something about his tone made her chest tighten, not in pain but in recognition. The sincerity was refreshing, almost disarming. She exhaled. Yes, she said, smiling for the first time in days. Let's do it. Edwin grinned. Perfect. We'll start with a press interview next week. I'll assign you a project coordinator to help organize everything. Just then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and frowned slightly. Excuse me one moment, he said, stepping aside. Amara took the opportunity to gaze out the window. Down below, the city hummed, alive and endless. Yesterday she had been the talk of betrayal. Today she was being invited into purpose. Life, she thought, was full of divine irony. When Edwin returned, his expression had shifted slightly, professional but thoughtful. Amara, he said carefully, you may want to know this before it reaches the news. Her chest tightened. What happened? They just released a press statement from the county courthouse, he said, sliding his tablet across the table. About Darius Cole. She hesitated, then looked. Headline: Businessman Darius Cole charged with financial fraud and identity manipulation. Investigation reveals series of hidden bank accounts and false marital claims. Her eyes widened. The article went on to detail how Darius had been using multiple names to access international funds through fake partnerships, including one under Tasha's name, another under Grace's. The fraudulent marriage license wasn't his first. Beneath the text was a photo of Darius being led into court in handcuffs. His once proud face was now hollow, the charm gone, replaced by exhaustion and disgrace. Amara's fingers trembled, not from shock but from clarity. He wasn't just a liar, she whispered. He was a con artist. Edwin nodded gently. Yes. And from what I'm hearing, you may have saved a lot of women by walking into that room yesterday. Your timing was divine. Amara sat back, the weight of the revelation sinking in. For the first time she felt not heartbreak but relief. The betrayal hadn't broken her, it had spared her from something darker. Do you want to make a statement? Edwin asked softly. The media might reach out soon. You don't owe them anything, but your story could inspire others who've survived deception. She thought for a moment, then shook her head. Not yet. I want my work to speak before my wounds do. Edwin smiled approvingly. Wise choice. As the meeting ended, he handed her a folder. We'll see you tomorrow for the onboarding session. You're going to change lives, Amara? She took it, feeling a renewed sense of power. Thank you, Edwin. He hesitated, studying her for a moment longer. If you ever need a friend, or someone who understands what it means to rebuild, I'm here. She nodded, her lips curving into a faint smile. I might hold you to that. Outside, the sun broke free from the clouds completely. Amara walked down the steps of the building, the city breeze brushing through her braids. She stopped to breathe deeply, her heart lighter than it had been in months. But as she crossed the street, a car rolled up beside her, a sleek black SUV. The tinted windows slid down. Inside sat a familiar face, Tasha. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice was urgent. Amara, she called. Please get in. We need to talk. Amara stiffened. Tasha, I think we've said enough. No, listen, Tasha insisted. It's about Darius. There's something you don't know, something he hid that could still hurt you. Amara frowned. What do you mean? Tasha glanced around nervously, then lowered her voice. He used your name, Amara. One of those fake accounts? It's registered under your ID. Amara froze. What? I found the document this morning, Tasha said, thrusting a folded paper toward her. I think someone's trying to frame you as his partner. If you don't act fast, they might come after you next. The paper trembled in Amara's hands. Sure enough, her name, Amara Okoye, appeared in the fine print beneath a foreign bank account summary. She looked up, her voice steady but low. Where did you get this? Tasha's eyes darted nervously. He sent it to me months ago, said it was backup security for our business plans. I didn't know what it meant until I saw the news. Before Amara could respond, her phone rang. It was an unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Okoye, said a serious voice. This is Detective Harper from the Financial Crimes Division. We need to speak with you regarding Mr. Darius Cole's accounts. Are you available this afternoon? Amara's pulse quickened. Detective, are you saying I'm under investigation? Not yet, he said carefully. But your name appears on a few documents we recovered. We'd like your cooperation to clear things up. Amara's heart pounded. She looked at Tasha through the open car window, who was biting her lip, guilt written all over her face. Detective, she said slowly, I'll come in right away. She hung up and exhaled. Tasha whispered, Amara, I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't know. Amara folded the paper neatly and slipped it into her purse. Don't be sorry, Tasha. Just pray. Because this isn't over. She turned and walked away, her steps strong but her mind spinning. For a moment, the world that had started to rebuild itself began to crack again, quietly, dangerously. Because sometimes, even after you escape the storm, you realize the flood is still rising beneath your feet. The Atlanta police headquarters was colder than Amara expected. The white walls hummed with fluorescent light, the air sharp with the scent of paper and disinfectant. A detective guided her into a small interview room with a glass window. Miss Okoye, said Detective Harper, a tall man in his 50s with silver streaks in his beard. Please have a seat. This won't take long. Amara sat, her heart steady but alert. I'm here to cooperate fully, she said. He nodded, flipping open a folder. Good. I believe you will want to clear your name quickly. You've been listed as a secondary account holder for 2 foreign transactions linked to Darius Cole. One to Ghana, another to Dubai. Each transaction used falsified charity documents that referenced your gym foundation. Amara's eyebrows furrowed. My gym foundation? That's insane. My proposal was for community work, not money laundering. We know, Harper said. But you need to prove it. Darius filed the paperwork under your name, using a forged partnership agreement. We already found one fake signature. He slid a paper across the table. It was a scanned copy of a document marked Strength and Sisterhood Investment Account, with her name neatly typed beside Darius's. The signature looked eerily like hers. Amara studied it carefully, then shook her head. That's not mine. The loop in the, I never sign like that. We'll have a handwriting expert confirm, Harper said, scribbling notes. But it would help if you can show evidence of your real signature on official documents. I have all my original grant applications and gym records, she said quickly. You can take copies. Good, he said. Now, one more question. Do you know anyone named Edwin Thomas? Amara blinked. Yes. He's the director at Hope Foundation. We met yesterday. Harper's expression didn't change. And how did that meeting go? He offered to fund my gym expansion, she said, trying to read his face. Why? Harper leaned back. Because according to our records, Hope Foundation filed a financial audit report this morning, claiming they discovered a suspicious connection between Darius Cole's fake charity accounts and their database. And the person who identified the link was Dr. Edwin Thomas himself. Amara's pulse jumped. Wait, are you saying Edwin knew Darius? Harper shrugged. That's what we're trying to confirm. He's been consulting for the county on youth grants for years. His foundation flagged certain documents, same logo, same account references, but tied to Cole's companies. Amara's mind raced. So Edwin might be the reason the fraud was exposed? Or, Harper said slowly, he might have been the one who introduced Cole to your work in the first place. Silence hung like a weight. After a moment, Harper closed the folder. For now, Miss Okoye, you're not a suspect. But stay available. We may need more from you soon. She nodded, standing. Thank you, detective. As she stepped out into the hallway, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number again. Unknown, meet me at Greenview Cafe in 1 hour. It's about Darius. Come alone. Her breath hitched. She didn't recognize the number, but something about the wording, firm, urgent, felt deliberate. She debated ignoring it, but her instincts, sharpened by everything she'd survived, whispered otherwise. An hour later, she arrived at Greenview Cafe, a quiet corner spot overlooking Peachtree Street. Rain had returned, tapping the windows softly. Inside, sitting by the corner booth, was Edwin Thomas. He smiled as she approached, though his expression carried a hint of strain. Amara, he greeted. Thank you for coming. She slid into the seat across from him, her guard up. You sent the message? He nodded. Yes. I didn't want to call in case the police were still monitoring communications. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why would they monitor you? He sighed, running a hand over his face. Because I used to work for the financial audit department that's investigating Darius Cole. Before I became a philanthropist, I was an internal fraud investigator for the county. I've seen people like him before, men who use charm to build empires out of deceit. Why didn't you tell me that yesterday? Because I didn't want you to think my interest in your foundation was an investigation, he said gently. I wanted to see the woman behind the proposal first, to understand if you were a victim or a collaborator. Amara leaned back, hurt flickering across her face. So you were testing me? In a way, Edwin admitted. But I never doubted your heart, Amara. When I saw the reports this morning, I made sure your name was cleared from our end before the media could twist it. You're safe now. She exhaled slowly. Thank you. He nodded. But there's something else. I found correspondence in Darius's digital trail, emails to an anonymous partner he called A&O. It matches the initials of your name. It looks like he planned to funnel funds under that alias. You weren't just a name on paper, you were his decoy. Amara's hands clenched around her coffee cup. So he planned this all along. Yes. He was setting you up as a shield. If he got caught, he could claim you were the mastermind and he was just your financial agent. She shook her head in disbelief. Even after everything, he's still trying to ruin me from afar. Edwin reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. Listen to me. We can fight this. I'll help you prove everything. I have contacts who can trace the digital signatures back to his server. She looked up, their eyes meeting. For the first time in a long while, Amara saw something rare in a man's gaze: unconditional sincerity. But before she could respond, her phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Grace. She answered quickly. "Grace? What's wrong?" Grace's voice was trembling. "Amara, it's Darius. He called me from jail. He said someone's trying to kill him." Amara froze. "What?" "He said there's a man inside who knows too much. About his partners, about the money. And he said if anything happens to him, you're next." The cafe seemed to fall away, the chatter, the rain, even Edwin's calm presence. "Grace, did he say who it was?" "He mentioned a name, Koba. He said Koba knows everything. If he gets out, none of us are safe." Edwin's face tightened. "Koba?" he repeated under his breath. Amara looked at him sharply. "You know him?" Edwin nodded grimly. "Yes. Koba is a known financial enforcer. He's worked with fraud rings that use fake charities. If he's involved, this goes deeper than Darius." Amara's stomach twisted. "So this wasn't just about me, or even Darius?" "No," Edwin said quietly. "This was a network. And you, Amara, were almost the perfect cover: respected, trusted, innocent." She swallowed hard. "What do we do now?" He leaned forward, voice low. "We expose them all. But it's dangerous. If what Darius said is true, Koba won't stop until every loose end is tied, including you." Outside, lightning flashed, casting sharp light across the cafe's glass. Amara's reflection stared back at her, strong, scarred, unbroken. She straightened in her seat. "Then we don't wait for them to find me," she said. "We find them first." Edwin's lips curved into a grim smile. "Good. Because I think Darius's downfall was just the beginning." The rain thickened outside, drumming louder, as if the heavens themselves were warning that the next storm wouldn't be one of love, but of war. The next morning, Amara stood in her gym before sunrise. The fluorescent lights flickered on, reflecting off the mirrors and the faint mist of disinfectant in the air. Rows of dumbbells gleamed like silent soldiers. She gripped one tightly, then set it down again. Everything felt different now. The gym, the space that once symbolized peace and empowerment, was suddenly a war room. Darius's deceit, the forged documents, the name Koba, echoing in her mind, all of it had cracked open a world she never knew existed. The front door creaked. Edwin stepped in, dressed in casual clothes and holding 2 cups of coffee. "I figured you'd be here," he said. "You look like someone planning a battle." Amara took the cup with a tired smile. "Maybe I am. Detective Harper called this morning. They're transferring Darius to federal custody. But before he left, he sent a letter addressed to me." Edwin's eyes sharpened. "What did it say?" Amara reached into her bag and unfolded a handwritten note. Darius's familiar scrawl filled the page. "Amara, if you're reading this, I know you think I deserve everything that's happening. Maybe I do. But I swear, I didn't mean for you to get dragged into this. You were my light in a dark business. I thought I could control both worlds, but they've turned on me. Koba doesn't forgive mistakes. He thinks I told the police about his offshore network. If I die in custody, tell them to look for the green ledger. It has every name, every transaction. But it's hidden somewhere only you'd understand, because I knew no one would think to look there." "Darius." Edwin frowned. "The green ledger?" Amara nodded slowly. "It must be proof, his record book. But what does he mean, somewhere only I'd understand?" Edwin rubbed his chin. "Think. What's something you both shared, something meaningful but private?" Amara's eyes darted to the wall behind him. There, above the mirror, hung a small framed photo of her and Darius from last year's charity marathon. They were smiling, sweaty, holding a giant check for the gym fundraiser. The frame's border, green. Her heartbeat quickened. She walked over, lifted the frame carefully and turned it around. The back panel was slightly loose. With her fingernail, she pried it open. A thin green notebook slid out, covered in dust. Edwin's eyes widened. He actually hid it here. Amara flipped it open. Inside were dozens of entries, names, amounts, international transfers. And at the bottom of the first page, a note in Darius's handwriting. "Keep the mask smiling, the real dance happens in shadow." She shivered. "This is it. This proves everything." Edwin nodded gravely. "We need to get this to Detective Harper, immediately." Before they could move, a loud crash sounded from the back of the gym. The emergency exit door burst open. 2 men in dark jackets stepped inside, faces covered with black scarves. "Hand over the book," one barked, his accent thick and unfamiliar. Amara froze, clutching the ledger to her chest. Edwin stepped forward instinctively, putting himself between her and the men. "Who sent you?" Edwin demanded. The taller one smirked. "You ask too many questions, Mr. Thomas. Koba says the lady doesn't need to read secrets that aren't hers." Amara's stomach dropped. They knew Edwin's name. "Give me the ledger," the man said again, raising a small pistol from under his coat. "No one has to get hurt." Amara's mind raced. The gym was silent except for the hum of the ceiling fan. Her eyes flicked to the corner where the heavy kettlebells sat stacked like weapons. Edwin whispered, "Stay calm." But calm had never saved anyone in her world. Movement did. With lightning reflexes, Amara hurled a 10-pound kettlebell toward the gunman's wrist. The weapon clattered across the floor as he shouted in pain. Edwin lunged forward, tackling the second man into a treadmill. The machine whirred to life, belt spinning wildly as both men struggled. Amara grabbed a barbell from the rack and held it like a staff. The first man swung at her, but she sidestepped, jabbing him in the stomach. He doubled over, wheezing. Edwin managed to subdue the other one with a sharp elbow strike and pinned him down. "Who sent you?" he shouted. "Where is Koba?" The man spat blood and sneered. "You think you can stop him? He's everywhere. The moment you hand that ledger to the police, you're already dead." Amara's grip tightened. "Then maybe I'll start dying on my own terms." Just then sirens wailed outside. Someone had called 911, probably one of her gym neighbors who'd heard the fight. The men panicked, exchanging glances. The first one hissed, "We'll be back for it," then bolted through the emergency door. The second man shoved Edwin away and followed. Within moments, police cars flooded the parking lot. Officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Amara dropped the barbell, breathing hard. Detective Harper arrived minutes later, his coat flapping in the breeze. "What the hell happened here?" Amara handed him the notebook. "This is what they came for. The green ledger. It has everything." He flipped through it quickly, eyes widening as he saw the detailed list of transactions. This could shut down half the ring." Edwin added, "But there's more. The men mentioned someone named Koba. He's the one behind all this." Harper nodded grimly. "We've been tracking Koba for years. He's never left a paper trail until now. This ledger might finally pin him down." Amara steadied herself against the wall, adrenaline fading into fatigue. "So it's over?" "Not yet," Harper said. "If Koba knows you have this, he'll come after you. We'll assign protection until we arrest him." Edwin put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now, Amara. You did what most people would never dare, stood up to the darkness." She gave a weary smile. "Maybe strength isn't about lifting weights anymore. It's about not letting fear lift you." The detective smiled faintly at her courage. "You might just help us close the biggest fraud case in the state." As they left the gym, the rain had stopped and sunlight began to break through the clouds. But Amara knew better now. Peace was rarely the end of a story. Sometimes it was only the breath before the next storm. Later that evening, while she was at home under police supervision, her phone buzzed again, an unknown number just like before. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice said, "You shouldn't have opened that ledger, Miss Okoye." Amara froze. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled. "Tell Detective Harper he's too late. The green ledger wasn't the only copy." Click. The line went dead. She stared at the phone, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The world outside her window was calm, but inside her chest, thunder was beginning again. That night, Amara barely slept. The distorted voice replayed in her mind, echoing like a haunting drumbeat. "You shouldn't have opened that ledger." The green ledger wasn't the only copy. Outside, crickets sang beneath the humid Atlanta air. Inside her house, two plainclothes officers stood guard by the front door. The red light of the security camera blinked steadily, a false comfort against an enemy she couldn't see. At 5 a.m., she sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea that had long gone cold. Edwin's number lit up her phone. "Morning," his voice came through, tired but calm. Harper called. "They analyzed the ledger overnight, found transactions tied to a shell company in South Africa. It's how Koba moved the money. But there's something else, a coded list of locations." "Locations?" "Yes," he said. "One of them is right here in Atlanta, an abandoned warehouse on Industrial Avenue. Harper's team is heading there in an hour." Amara's gut twisted. "You think Koba's there?" "Either him or his operation," Edwin replied. "Harper wants you to stay home, but I told him that's impossible. If your name's in that ledger, you deserve to see how this ends." She exhaled. Then let's finish this. By 6:30 a.m., the convoy rolled through the misty industrial district. Detective Harper led the team, flanked by armed officers in tactical gear. Edwin drove beside Amara in a black sedan, following the lead car. The warehouse loomed ahead, a rusted building with peeling paint and shattered windows, sitting in silence like an old secret. Harper signaled the team forward. "All right, everyone, quiet entry." Amara's heart raced as they crept through the side door. The air smelled of oil and dust. Faint light filtered through broken panels, illuminating crates stacked along the walls. A noise came from the far end, metal clanging, footsteps. The officers raised their weapons. Then a figure stepped into view, a tall man in a gray suit, bald head glinting under the thin sunlight. His accent was thick, Eastern African perhaps, and his smile sharp as a blade. "Koba," Harper said flatly. The man raised his hands slowly, though his eyes danced with mockery. "Detective Harper. And Miss Okoye." "I was beginning to wonder when my guests would arrive." Amara's jaw tightened. "You've been using people like me, turning charity into corruption." Koba chuckled. "My dear, corruption and charity are twins. One feeds the other. I simply made them dance." Harper stepped forward. "You're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder." "Ah," Koba said softly, "but you have to catch me first." In a flash, he hurled a smoke canister at the floor. The room exploded with white haze. Chaos erupted, officers shouting, gunfire crackling. Amara coughed, eyes burning as she tried to find Edwin through the smoke. "Edwin," she called. A figure grabbed her wrist. It was him. "This way," he shouted, pulling her behind a crate. Through the haze, she saw Koba sprinting toward a back exit, clutching a small black case. Harper's team pursued, their footsteps pounding like thunder. "Stay here," Edwin ordered. But Amara shook her head. "Not this time." She bolted after them, adrenaline flooding her veins. The chase spilled out into the alley behind the warehouse, the morning sun slicing through the smoke. Koba fired 2 shots backward, narrowly missing Harper. He turned a corner, and ran straight into Amara. She didn't hesitate. She swung a metal rod lying near the dumpster, hitting his forearm. The case flew from his grasp. Koba roared, lunging at her, but she sidestepped, using the same defensive stance she taught her gym girls. She jabbed again, connecting with his shoulder. Harper's team caught up, shouting, "Drop it! Now!" Koba froze, his breath ragged. His eyes darted from the officers to Amara, then to the black case at her feet. "You have no idea what you're holding," he hissed. Amara kicked the case toward Harper. "Then you tell him." Harper opened it cautiously. Inside were several USB drives labeled GL Copy 1, GL Copy 2, and GL Master. Koba smiled bitterly. "Insurance," he said. "Every empire needs it." "Not this one," Harper replied, snapping the cuffs on him. "It's over." Koba smirked one last time. "You'll never stop greed, detective. It just changes clothes." He was led away as sirens wailed in the distance. Amara leaned against the brick wall, chest heaving. Edwin came running up, eyes full of concern. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, exhausted. "Just tired of fighting liars." Harper approached, holding one of the USBs. "We'll need you at the station for a final statement, Miss Okoye. But after today you're free of this mess." She nodded, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you, detective." 2 weeks later. The story of the charity fraud queenpin dominated every news channel. Koba and his network had been dismantled. Darius, now cooperating with authorities, had confessed everything in exchange for protection. He was sentenced, and his plea helped recover millions meant for real community projects. Amara's name was cleared publicly. The Strength and Sisterhood Gym became a symbol of resilience. Donations poured in. Young women from across the state joined her program. On the day of the foundation's reopening, the community center was packed. Reporters gathered, cameras flashing as Amara cut the ribbon in front of the new entrance, painted green, in quiet defiance of the ledger that once nearly destroyed her. Mama Neka stood proudly in the crowd, tears in her eyes. "My daughter," she whispered, "you've turned pain into power." After the ceremony, Edwin approached, handing her a bouquet of yellow tulips. "For hope," he said with a smile. Amara accepted it warmly. "Thank you, for everything." He hesitated. "You know, after all this, maybe you should let someone else protect you for a change." She laughed softly. "Maybe. But anyone who tries will have to keep up with me." They shared a look, calm, promising, and new. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, the city lights flickered to life. Amara stood before her gym's sign, its letters bold against the twilight. Strength and sisterhood. She breathed deeply, feeling peace for the first time in months. Then her phone buzzed. A new message appeared. Unknown. Congratulations, Miss Okoye. You've survived. But remember, some ledgers never close. Amara stared at the screen, then smiled faintly. Maybe, she whispered, sliding the phone into her pocket. But this chapter does. She turned, walking back into the gym, surrounded by laughter, music, and the rhythmic sound of skipping ropes. Life moving forward. The camera panned upward toward the sunset, her silhouette framed against the glowing orange sky, strong, unbroken, and reborn.